All right. I have no idea what episode this is. We'll figure it out. I'll edit it on the way out, but I'll shoot an outro, intro, the whole nine. Episode, whatever, of Outside the Lines, back with our revered guest of Tucker DeCamp.
Ooh, third time, and I'm loving it. Glad to be back.
How are we doing? How's the Pacific Northwest treating you up there? How's it going?
It's getting warmer, and I'm really liking it. I do do think that my tolerance for winter or winter weather, like real winter weather, not like California winter weather, is about 3 months. And there towards the end, it was getting a little tired of that. So it's
Yeah,
good.
normal winter is like 65 degrees here in California, so
Yeah.
a little bit different than up there.
Yeah, people like to say that we have quote real seasons here, and they aren't wrong, but they're not the best. So
All right, so I sent over a list to you of a bunch of things. I don't know if you brought any of your ideas as well. It's gonna be a bit of a different episode today. More or less, we usually talk about the market, kind of other things like that. This time, we're just gonna be strictly just brainstorming and how we can build, grow, buy, or just somewhat get these ideas funded. So we'll go through a list of things here, and then we'll see what my guy has to say about these.
love it.
Did you want to have anything else that stuck out at you, or did you want to start with something that you brought?
No, I'd actually figured you could lead me and change it up, and I'll just kind of take responses to what you got going.
All right. So, okay. Anything from the list here? Let's see. I think we'll start with Snoo for adults. We'll see that one. Do you know what Snoo is at all? Do you have any idea?
Is that
Mind you, we're a bit. I'm 26, and you are almost of the ripe age of 25. So
quarter century?
yeah, we don't know what the general population of adults use when they put their kids to bed, but this is for like higher end kind of net worth individuals, I would say, that use it's like a bed that kind of senses the baby and will kind of rock it if it starts to cry or anything like that.
That's quite interesting in the way that I think there is like a huge discussion or debate between how in those early stages, and obviously like super early on, when a baby cries, you're usually going to go and make sure the baby's okay. It's natural instinct. And I think that I'm not too sure on the age window, so to speak, but at a certain point, brings up the discussion of, do you go and figure out what's wrong with the baby or treat the baby? And at this point, it's probably like a toddler. And when it cries, what are you going to do? Are you going to let it cry it out, or are you going to go and nurture that baby? And I think that letting technology change that approach brings a whole new variable into the game of, you're now being nurtured, so to speak, but not necessarily from your parents.
Yeah, so that's the kind of the take on it from the baby perspective. This is more for now. How would we kind of now? I'm thinking of adjusting this for the adults, because the sleep industry is ever booming now, and people are paying thousands of dollars to get their good night's rest. So in the end of the day, what's the kind of takeaway that I'm getting? The takeaway that I'm getting from this is that people are buying this stuff. And I think the market's huge for expensive beds, because you spend a third of your life sleeping. You want to make sure you're sleeping well.
Yeah, and you're spending a third of it, and that's if you're probably a highly motivated individual where you're sleeping less than a solid 8 hours. I'm sure there's a majority of people who were sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours because that's just, they find that is the optimal approach to life, I guess. Um, but yeah, I do agree. I think that the market is really growing, and people are realizing that you are spending a third to a half of your life. I had a discussion the other day about people are so less inclined to spend a bunch of money on a mattress, that could technically improve their sleep tenfold. But they don't want to spend the money. And I think that's just because of the difference of you're not necessarily experiencing it. You're subconscious
Yeah.
when it is actually working. You're not supposed to quote experience it. You're supposed to have the beginning and the end, and that's it, if it's really working at its best. So I think that product is probably inserting itself at a great time because all these, like you said, all these newer beds are coming out. These quote Instagram popular beds are actually becoming relatively popular, especially with older, more established adults, being discussed by people in their 50s and 60s of, hey, this memory foam bed seems a little bit cheaper. I don't really feel like spending 6-7 grand on a Tempur-Pedic, but I do like the memory foam. So it's interesting that these beds, so to speak, and I'm sure they have a good presence on Facebook, but a lot on Instagram as well. But you're still capturing that older crowd who is going to have a harder time sleeping. I'm not very familiar with the statistics, but I believe that people have, outliers aside, for the most part, you trend more towards having a harder time sleeping as you get older. As you're younger, you're more used to, sleeping on a hardwood floor or something like that, waking up fine. And older people have more physical ailments. You just become more prone to, you sleep on your side and your ball socket's all messed up the next day and you need to like lay on your back the entire time. So I definitely think that is something that could be reaching a market that is, it's interesting because, not to jump around too much, but to think about a market that has existed for a very long time, longer than most, but it is just now becoming a larger, more investable market where you see smaller companies, startups, and specifically talking about this new technology um, becoming really big.
Yeah,
So I
I think it was kind of like you said, like not to branch out, but it was the entire bed industry and kind of sleep industry as a whole is starting to get more attention because of how much it has to do with your productivity. To adults that are just a few years older than us in their 30s are starting to realize like, hey, it's worth spending the two, three, $4,000 on a bed if I'm going to be more productive. My body's going to feel better. I'm going to age a lot uh, more gracefully in the coming years. So I'll take the chances and spend the money and invest in myself doing it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that once it kind of came out that there is not only short-term effects on, you start sleeping on this bed and a few days from now you start to feel better on a daily basis, but not only that, but looking towards the, like you said, long-term effects of how that's going to make a difference in the long run of how you age, especially like you mentioned, in an age where we have fitness trackers and people are getting DEXA scans and monitoring, what they're eating down to, the macronutrients, micronutrients. Um, it's big game changer.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you kind of like you said, it's hard to invest that money right away because you don't know really how you're getting it back right away until you start to sleep on it for the few kind of couple of weeks and then you're really realizing that it's wow, I'm waking up more energized, I can get more done with my day. My partner's having a better night's sleep. Like if you have one, they're starting to notice the differences. So it's all around helps.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So that being said, um, I think what really depends on how you or how this gets captured and how much this takes off is dependent on the price point and who it's targeting. Because obviously, you got beds that Tempur-Pedic bed standard, cooling mattress that's memory foam, 6-7 grand. That's a lot of money to a lot of people. And, if they can meet that price point and get enough reach to people and make people understand the benefits of it to a certain point where they are trying it out, then I really think that they have something good here. Because obviously the whole, for lack of a better word, gimmick mattress type things like Sleep Numbers, and obviously they're a well-established company and a lot of people like their beds, but you're changing the density of your mattress. But like that kind of technology rather than traditional technology of, okay, we're going to make the bed soft or hard, or it's going to contour to your body. Adding these new things, I feel like got spearheaded by that Sleep Number. Whereas at first people are looking at it like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want a bed that changes all the time? And now everyone is very adapted to that type of idea where, hey, if this could make a difference, then I'm willing to try it. And a lot of these companies are giving, 90, 30, 60-day trials to where you can actually get a good um, try at one of these things to really see how your money is going to be spent.
Yeah, I think the biggest brand that I've seen, not entirely the whole what is not entirely the whole like Snoo for it's not that active, not the whole Snoo for the adults version, but it's the I think I might send it to you, the Eighth Sleep.
Yeah.
It's a temperature controlled and it's kind of like I said, it's the memory foam product, but it adjusts to the way that your body or the other person in the bed, like how their bodies are reacting to it, and it has a pod that adjusts and will actively heat and cool the bed down to just the 1 degree temperature change in your body. So stuff like that, and they come at it's a direct to consumer brand, so they're able to come in at a price point which is it's really competitive for the technology that you're getting for a queen bed for just around $3,000 is unheard of.
Yeah. I think that a big thing that has changed in the market is the whole direct to consumer, where you're getting all the information from the people who make the mattress rather than, and I don't mean to speak ill of mattress retailers, but you're kind of talking to a used car salesman about these products that he or she doesn't necessarily know everything about and hasn't slept on all of these beds, so to speak. So you're talking directly to the people who have made the bed, they've made it for you, and you're getting all the information that you need. And going back to the trial of being able to try that, and they'll pay for the shipping there and the shipping back, and they're customizing it to your needs and going directly to the temperature control. That's a huge step in I being younger, the ripe age of almost 25. I usually don't have issues sleeping with like aching joints or waking up and my back hurts. The thing that affects my sleep the most is the temperature, and this is the temperature of the bed, especially in places where, okay, so one night is 72 degrees in the house, and then one night is 65, and sometimes you wake up and you're too cold, because some of us are restless sleepers, and that's going to toss the sheets off the bed, and you're going to wake up like, what happened. I feel like I'm in a war zone. Or you
Yeah.
put on because you're too cold at first, and then you have a down blanket or something like that, and that insulation just heats you up to a temperature where it's waking you up in the middle of the night. And I don't think that people realize that when you wake up, even if it's once in the middle of the night, you are affecting your REM cycles completely, in the way that even before and a lot after you wake up, you're going to be out of REM sleep. So you may have woken up for 5 minutes and been aware of being awake for 5 minutes, but you probably affected an hour, hour and a half of your actual REM sleep time, because that's technically what is going to recover your body. If I were looking from a physical standpoint, if you have a quote whoop strap, I'm not being a plug for them or anything like that. Like, it's going to monitor that, and it's going to say, hey, you didn't get your full recovery last night. And if you're doing that, 5, 6 nights out of the week, that's going to have a major effect on your body.
Yeah, see, that's the other biggest thing is that the that 8 Sleep does well is it connects with apps like that and to just directly to your phone to so you're able to monitor the type of recovery you're getting and as well as the deep sleep that you're attaining. So I don't know, I'm a big believer in these kinds of brands. I think they can be huge here in the future. Let's see here. Anything else stand out to you?
Not much.
And we'll put the Snoo conversation to rest here. Uh, I don't know. I'm not the biggest coffee drinker, but I know that you people in the Pacific Northwest are big on your coffee. So I was thinking of a subscription coffee creamer. I'm not sure entirely if one's even out there that I've seen. I know there's subscription coffee brands, but typically people who have coffee like it with some sort of creamer. And I living with my girlfriend, she's a big coffee drinker. And there's some days where she'll go to have her coffee and then go to grab the creamer and it's empty. It's just one of those things that just kind of runs out without you knowing it. So I think that's one of those things where I'm not sure how it would be. It's you kind of would put in how often you drink coffee, and then they'd send you a bottle every like probably 2 weeks or something like that. So you get a shipment twice a month. I think that would be just another passive way for companies to just it's the coffee industry is massive. And just being selling the little accessory to the coffee is a big way to make money.
Yeah, I agree. I think that an important point that service would provide is that people are focused on their coffee, and like you said, it's, so to speak, an accessory of your drink. And a lot of times, even though it's a very important part of a lot of people's drinks, it gets overlooked. And that can kind of change your entire day, because
Yeah.
a lot of people are very particular about their coffee. It's kind of interesting because, coffee is kind of like, if someone, well, I would say like a whiskey or a scotch, in that people are very particular about what kind that they like, but it reaches a much broader community. And a lot of people have, a, so to speak, a coffee culture. They're very opinionated about their coffees. They want it a certain way. And, a lot of times people aren't on top of that, aren't thinking about that, because it is not the main thing. They're thinking about their coffee. And then the second thought is, okay, what do you want, cream and sugar with that? And that doesn't get
Yeah.
taken into account of. And I think that's like you said, it's a good passive way for someone to complement an already existing business model, or to start one fresh and focus on that creamer. Because there's the crazies who like their coffee black, and they're just super hardcore. uh, and
The David Goggins, the Jocko Willis of the world. There's people out there.
Yeah, exactly. David Goggins out there cooking that thing on a campfire or something, because it's getting hard, so to speak. And but there's also the largest, I would say, without looking at statistics, probably the largest part of the coffee community likes some sort of cream and sugar. That's why lattes exist.
Yeah.
Is because people want that, and if
Like you
that
said,
model
if
take
people just wanted black coffee, there wouldn't be Starbucks on every corner.
yeah, they wouldn't have this massive menu of can I get a caramel frappuccino with double whip, no whip, super creamer, all that. But I think it's a great business model to take advantage of a overlooked item in a very large industry.
Yeah. So kind of going back to what you said it would kind of be, you mentioned it being an accessory to an existing biz. Do you think this would be something that a coffee subscription company would have an easier time of adding on to their already paid customers, or do you think this could be its own standalone separate subscription service?
I think that it is, well, based on your question, it would be easier for an existing model to add into that because they already have the subscribers, they already have the frame of the business and how the subscription works. And I'm sure they probably already have the business lined up with those people who make the creamers or coffees to add on to that. But I do think that a lot of people, probably don't have a quote subscription to coffee because they're probably not so particular about the coffee itself because they are particular about their creamer. And, I highly doubt that a person who puts, 3, 4 teaspoons of creamer in their coffee is going to have a huge difference of taste between a blonde roast, medium roast, or a dark roast. And I think that standalone, it would be a great product to um, break. And if you get enough market share, you can overcome that difference between the people who already have a subscription for coffee, adding that on. And there is a whole tree of different routes that you can base that off of. But I think it's a good model to base off of because there's more establishments, subscription services, and businesses that model themselves around coffee itself and
Yeah.
overlook the fact that there is a large part of that market that only wants creamer in their coffee and they don't care if it's Starbucks roast or if it's Folgers because it's all about the cream.
So obviously Amazon already has similar types products with a lot of these things, like with creamers, I'm sure they do it, but with vitamins, they have like a subscribe and save model. Do you think it's possible for a direct to consumer brand to step into the space and kind of compete? Or do you think this is more of like okay, like Amazon already has this kind of locked down. Let's look at a different business idea.
Um, I do think that Amazon plays a good role in it would be easier because a lot of people already have a subscription to Amazon Prime. So it would be easier to click and subscribe and save, so to speak. But I do think that if you're going to take the approach of, for example, modeling after the companies that I'm sure you have seen of, I can't remember the exact names of the companies, but subscriptions to like whiskeys and scotches where they have different little samplers that they have
Yeah.
and that you get to try something new every month or so to speak. Finding a niche in that realm of, hey, we're going to figure out what you like and we're going to refine that, we're going to look deeper into that, and we're going to give you the best kind of creamers and make your coffee the best that it can be and how you like it from your own home, rather than, okay, well, it, if you're going to go the route of a general, hey, we got hazelnut and we can get hazelnut to you on time every month so you don't run out. I think that you're kind of get overrun by Amazon. But if you find yourself in a place where you can specialize that. And I think that we're in a time where these sort of subscription companies to refine people's tastes and what they like uh, can exist and thrive. I think that that would be the one way to get around the looming monster that is Amazon, is to find a more specific niche, because people are very passionate about their coffee. If you put that detail in, people respond positively.
Yeah, I think a big part of it too is like you said, is trying to find a niche where you're not just going to be like like the only brand I can think of is like a Folgers or Chobani. Like Chobani creamers I've heard of are the new craze, but you have to really find a niche where you're appealing to a lot of the big coffee people, where they think about sustainability and how you're sourcing things and how you're helping the environment. I think that's going to be the only big selling point that's going to keep you from getting eaten alive by Amazon.
Yeah, because they're going to provide, you know, we can repeat Amazon's business model all the time, is just we're going to get it to you fast and we're going to get it to you. And so if you don't have anything on top of that, you might get some sort of market share based off of marketing and marketing yourself differently, because people are going to think that it's better in some way. But if you don't provide a better service or a more unique service that tailors yourself because you are a smaller business, I think that is the only advantage that you would have, is to focus on your customer and what they're looking for, uh, with a magnifying glass, rather than Amazon doing a large coverage of, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
We'll tell you
Well,
what you want because you're going to give us the information.
exactly. They have all your data already. But
Yep.
again, the first thing, one of the top thing, like one of the top hits for it is the top actually non-paid, non-advertisement. When you search subscription coffee creamer, it's Amazon. It's non-dairy coffee creamers. Subscribe and save is the original listing. So they're already eating you alive in terms of SEO. You can't do it organically. You're going to have to pay to beat these guys. And even then, it's going to be an
Yeah.
uphill battle.
Yes. And so the biggest thing that small companies can do, and that's how they beat out bigger companies, is to refine themselves and focus on the customer more. Just go back to the basics. Economics is like, if you can make something better, then they will come.
I don't even think it has to be the best. It just has to be the most well known. So if you can somehow like you said, find a niche and then get in there and be the most well known within that community, it's gonna be hard to lose there.
Yeah.
On the subscription trend, we'll head into subscription running shoes. I guess this one's more for myself that I've seen. I'm not sure how. There's a lot of different brands out there, obviously, but when you're in the running community, you tend to stick with a certain brand of running shoes. Obviously, growing up, you were the same way with the type of cleats you wore. It was like either the Nike, like it was like the Nike Vapors. That's it. If you didn't have those, you weren't yourself.
Exactly.
So with same thing with typical runners nowadays is they stick with either there's Brooks, there's Nike, there's Adidas, New Balance, Hoka, but you tend to stick with one. So I'm not sure if there's any other room for these kind of smaller direct to consumer brands like Allbirds or Noble to really make a step at these guys, but I think where the bigger brands are leaving money on the table is not having a subscription model for running shoes. Like I don't want to have to go out and buy new running shoes after every 200 miles. I want them to just show up at my door. And usually
Yeah,
every 200
exactly.
miles tops out it's probably a couple months.
Yeah, I think when you're really putting some miles on shoes, it's important to figure out exactly what you want. And I think, I just got familiarized with, running stores will spend that time, figure out the arch of your foot, how you run, what your gait is, and customize a shoe to you. And I think that is something that's fantastic, because a lot of people go out there and they're like, hey, those Nikes, they look sick, or those Adidas, like I want the NMDs because everyone's wearing the NMDs, but necessarily they're not, and not the best shoe for running. And I think that if you get deeper into the running community, you're going to see brands like Brooks be more popular because of they put more into the shoe and they know who's going to be buying those shoes. But I agree, there's a lot of money left on the table in that. Usually people who run, usually people who run a lot, are very busy people, very driven people. And I would go as far as to say that those kinds of people are putting miles on those shoes, and they're going to run those shoes into the ground. We talked about something yesterday where you got holes in your shoes and like, hey, maybe I should throw these away. No, they work fine, And I think that if from the business side, if you are coming in saying, hey, we can save you some money on these shoes, and they're going to come in right when those old shoes get bad, then you're going to be on a good cycle of, hey, you know what? I wore these out, but it's time to get the new ones. And when you're putting that many miles in, it's important that that shoe is good no matter what you're wearing, shorts, leggings, shirts, jackets, whatever you use to run. Your only contact with, I guess, the running surface is through the shoe. The shoe is the only necessary component that needs to be top of the line, best shape, best fit as well. And if you're not taking care of that component, it will affect the rest of you.
I think the bigger thing, like we talked about too, is just like they're leaving so much money on the table in terms of you can have different tiers of how often you're getting the shoes. There's some people that run 200-300 miles a month, but then they're going to need shoes literally every single month. And you can cut them a discount and have them, because these shoes are not cheap by any means. They almost run you probably between, usually on a good high end pair of shoes, they're going to run you anywhere from $140 to $200 a shoe. So if you can capture the majority of the people that run at a quarterly basis, you're going to be making, like I said, it's the lifetime value of a customer goes through the roof. If you're getting them to spend almost $200 every 4 months, I don't know how no one's thinking about this at these big brands. And it's as simple as putting in an email and saying what size and shoe you like. It has to be, I don't know how much, obviously we're both not into the world of running as hardcore as that, like, or even shipping and design and stuff, but like it has to be a supply issue where they're not going to have the same shoe with the same color every single month. I guess that has to be part of the issue.
Yeah, I've actually ran into that a few times. People talking about, oh, well, I had to get a new shoe because these shoes that I've worn for the past 8 years, they discontinued them. And
Yeah.
they have the newer model, so to speak, but you're not hitting with that exact product that they're looking for. So I think that would be one of the hoops to jump through. But I think that you're hitting a solid point when you look at the other shoes that you have in your closet. All of those things are going to change, and they change on a variable basis depending on the person of what kind of style you like, what kind of lifestyle you run, how often your fashion changes. The only thing that stays consistent is these shoes, these running shoes, are for a purpose. They're for a specific purpose. And if you find a shoe that you like, that is going to be the shoe that you stick with. I obviously have, or I'm notorious for wearing Converse for a very long time, but that's a specific situation where that varies from person to person. And I think that the most consistent product that people would buy, or be accustomed to is a shoe that they use for running because it serves a specific purpose, rather than where a lot of shoes are more of a lifestyle purpose of, hey, these look a certain way, they go with a certain outfit. Running shoes are specifically made for running.
Yeah, 100%. I'll take this to like an extreme example of, it's not running shoes, for example, but like you said, like when you have a certain thing that you're accustomed to and it gets discontinued. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago when he's a golfer, Daniel Berger. I'm not sure if you, his parents are they coach the U.S. national team for tennis, so that's how he kind of got his name to claim to fame. And but as of recently, a couple of years ago, he went out and purchased every single set of the clubs he was using because he can't use the newer versions of those clubs. They just didn't fit how he worked as a professional. And so he went out and spent almost like $200,000 on eBay buying all the old sets of those clubs because they are tailored directly to the way he likes them and how he likes to use those clubs. Like you said, so when you find a pair of running shoes that you like, you don't go away from them. He's the same way with golf clubs.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example that brings up the thought of, so companies are going to get the basic metrics of, okay, this shoe is selling better than this other shoe. We're going to, you know, keep this shoe running, and then this shoe doesn't seem like it's doing as well. So we're going to tailor that off, but they're going to get more metrics off of, if you provide a service that you're giving the company more information about the type of runner that you are, how far you run, how often you run. And I think that it would be a reciprocal service to the companies themselves to see more information about the product that they are providing, in that, okay, shoe A is being worn by a higher percentage of runners who run more than 100 miles a month. You know, these people are buying the shoe once a month, once every 2 months, whereas this other shoe is more popular, but it seems to uh, do better with people who are running less. And then because of those metrics, companies can make better shoes more suited to specialized individuals. And I think that overall, those are the markets that we're getting into, is that companies have the time, the information, and the ability to specialize their products for special individuals. And in this case, being individuals who are running long distances or running very often, they're going to be more in tuned to wanting a better shoe. So
Yeah.
if overall you're going to be selling, 200,000 of shoe A, and shoe B selling 1 million units, so to speak, every month, that shoe A might not be selling as many units in total, but they're reaching an audience that is going to have a higher customer retention. And you being, the business guy, I believe that customer retention is probably the second most important thing to, or if not more important than getting new customers.
Yeah. I think regardless of, this is one of those things where I don't even think you need to really niche down to make a lot of money on this. I think the companies can slap a subscription service to every single shoe out there and they'd still probably get people to subscribe to it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if they did that for Air Force Ones, every sorority girl in America is buying Air Force Ones right now. So they'll throw it on dad's credit card and get a 70, 80, almost $100 shoe once a month. And
Exactly.
times that by, again, you can do the math on that one, but they're leaving money on the table here.
I agree.
I don't know. I don't own Amazon though. I don't own Nike, but hey, something's got to give here.
Something's got to give.
Next one was more of like, I know I wrote on here, it's voice AI, like web development.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's more of like, a more exploratory kind of thing, because obviously, like, working with web development in the past, there's just certain things that you want to do without actually having to get in the nitty gritty and type the code in to do it. You just want it to just work.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not how things work, but I don't know if you know of you're the more higher level engineer type person. So is that, like, is that more of a matter of having to build out AI to a more expansive scale, or is that just not something that's even possible?
Well, I disclaimer for anybody listening. Obviously not the computer engineer or anything on that quite level. So my knowledge is relatively limited, but
Yeah, I
uh,
usually preface everything with I don't know shit about shit. So
yeah,
you can
that's,
take it what you take what you want and make your own
yeah,
stupid decisions out of it here.
this is not official advice.
Yeah.
Um, the way I understand it, though, is there is a difference between, and I might butcher this, but there's a difference between necessarily like AI, like neural networks, and machine learning. And that difference being that AI is usually construed as both of those things, whereas from what I understand, neural networks are something that is like the AI that we think of, that this computer is thinking, it's learning, it's taking new variables and putting them in, whereas machine learning is taking variables in, and when a result comes out, it will store that result. And then when the same variable comes in and it stores that result, if it stores the same result or if it stores a different one, over time you're going to get a large number of instances to where then the machine computer can analyze the statistics of the occurrence, whatever that may be, whatever that may be in when someone picks red, they're going to pick hammer or something. That's a very simplified version of it,
Yeah.
but those choices being made. So um, that difference aside, I think that if we're on that level of thinking in the way that we can tell the computer, is it that you're wanting to tell the computer, hey, this, so to speak, website needs to match the certain style? I guess it depends on the complexity of what you're looking for, because you can use machine learning to analyze other websites and other interfaces, front end interfaces, and I'm sure back end interfaces. Um, where it will see what fares the best, but that requires a large level of variable input, to where you need to take into account that if the machine is taking in, okay, well, this site is it's white, it's got uh, 20 tabs on it, it's flowing pictures on these, and it has selections on these, and it's providing this information, and they have a whole hell of a lot more volume than this site that's super simple, black and white, gray images. It's going for something, but then doesn't take into account the fact that that site A is Amazon, and there's a whole lot of traffic because of another variable. Whereas if we're to jump back into AI, you could, with my limited understanding, would be able to create its own site
Yeah, so
based off of.
that's what I was more wondering too, because I saw something recently. I was reading an article. It's now there's certain types of AI that are being able to, so you can just type in neon pineapple, and then it'll basically put out an image of what it thinks a neon pineapple looks like. So, and it looks like a neon sign in the shape of a pineapple, which is like absurd to me. I can't really fathom that. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
where it must take in data points from something to understand what a human thinks a neon pineapple looks like.
yeah.
So my thinking is like, I want to be able to sit back, look at my monitor, and just be like, okay, pull in Amazon style template, scratch the filters, throw in these filters, and then it populates the way I want it to.
Yeah, I think
All
that
with it just being, now that must run down into like, it has to be a hardware issue. I don't have a $20,000 computer that's going to be able to, as well as the data points that are going to be able to kind of
run
facilitate that.
a neural network. Yeah, I think that the first bottleneck that I see is when you get into the technicality of making a website, you're going to have a interface issue, more specifically a language issue. The best example of this is people learn a new language. You learn Spanish, but then you have to take a whole nother class to learn Spanish for the medical field if you're going to be a doctor, you know?
Yeah.
So that's specific what you mean by, especially in English where, one word can have 4 different meanings.
Yeah. Dumbest language ever that we all speak for some reason.
Some reason. I think that would be the hardest issue is if you're going to do that, you need to spend a bunch of time setting those variables. And all this that we, talk about so casually would most likely require, years of code and
Sadly.
understanding it. It's definitely scratching God level surface of computing.
Yeah, which is again like, I can do basic level of code to get web development done, but I'm nowhere near to where like these not A plus, but like top tier developers are at. Like that's just beyond me, man. I'll just stick to my to doing drag and drop templates at this point. It's just a lot easier, less time consuming as well.
I think once Neuralink comes out and Elon refines that, you'll just be just fine. Just get that in there, and the computer will know exactly what you're talking about.
We can riff off that topic a little bit too. Here, did you see that video of the monkey playing Pong against itself?
I didn't see the video. I heard about the article,
gosh,
and I kind of got worried. But
I'm like, it's all business advice, everything out the window here. Like this is a little bit scary to see that you're able to do that much with just the simple implant.
Yeah, and especially this first version where, obviously evil genius Elon is not going to give us the full scope of what's actually going on behind those doors. But, he's trying to, I think, fix ailments, and anyone who has like a physical ailment, people with paralysis or dementia, trying to fix those things. But then if we're on the level of getting an interface to take commands and process with a computer, it's a little scary. They're a little further along than they care to admit.
I think it's the hard part too. Like you have to throw out all kind of conspiracy or whatever, like reservations out the window, and have to kind of trust in him and humanity to just kind of do what they think is best. But we'll see what happens with that one. Again, like you said, they're light years ahead of technology of what I even expected to be at. So
yeah,
see what happens with that one, man.
And growth in technology is usually exponential, so it's gonna hit us real hard here soon.
I think I don't know if it would be. I wouldn't want to say. Like, I think a cool little feature to that would be. I mean, if you see how the rise of Tesla is coming, and you see how many Tesla cars are on the road, do you think Neuralink would be able to? I think that would be a kind of a cool concept to link it up with the car, the Tesla itself, and if the Neuralink detects um, an alcohol level above a certain amount, you wouldn't be able to drive, or the car would drive itself.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that would be an easier order that it could probably, because it's in your brain, so it's not necessarily taking blood samples. It's more of
Yeah,
neuron firing. So I'm sure that there would be more of a monitor of how your optic nerve is firing into your brain and seeing, okay, so we got some, you know,
abnormal brain
vision
activity. There's
no,
something
yeah.
going on here.
Yeah, and then that would be able to make that decision. I think that, my main concern is deciphering decisions and taking decisions, because at that point you're taking decisions out of the hands of a person, and that could have major implications, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
Again, it's
you
the
talk,
thing that you give up the civil or personal rights for the greater good of humanity, and it's a slippery slope. It really is, man. Not
yeah,
to
I think,
Again, not to get off of the topic here, but it's a valid discussion when you're talking about something as powerful as Neuralink, man. It has to be brought up.
yeah, I think that the more, for this specific example, the more you give up, or actually the more that you want ease of use, is usually a trade-off with control. And this is a perfect
Yeah.
example of it, is you're giving up control to have ease of use and to skip that middle ground step of the decision, because it's making the decision then for you. Um, in this specific example, it's kind of a polarizing decision, in that at one point, I guess you're leaving a decision up to someone who is uh, technically not reliable to make a good decision. Whereas the other side of that is you're giving up control, but you're also doing it because it's safer for everybody else.
It's a great movie, I, Robot, dude. Will Smith.
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
is the robots, man. They're coming to get us.
They're gonna get a Skynet. It's coming.
All right, man. Well, on that note, I thought it was another solid discussion here. We've always got good talks on here. So, um, anyone, obviously, Tucker is always around. If you want to see a little more of him, I'll link his socials so you can go bother him. But yeah, if you guys want to see him back on again, let me know. He's always a welcomed guest. He is, like you said, he's got the pizzazz, as some would say.
I got the
But
happy birthday
always
sign
great
behind me.
insight on it. It is his birthday. Give him a happy birthday wish as well.
You're killing me. Well, I
All
love
right,
being
guys.
here.
Outside the Lines episode. Oh, losing this guy here. Outside the Lines episode, whatever it is. I'll talk to you guys soon here. Later, guys.
Thanks.